Welcome back. I'm still in the studio with MMC Michael Sun of the Joburg City Council, and from our Cape Town studios I'm joined by policing specialist Eldred de Klerk. Mr. de Klerk, welcome to the show. Now, we receive these stats on a yearly basis or twice a year, but many people wonder what purpose is that these stats serve, because, you know, we're told this kind of crime has gone up, this one has gone down, next time around this one has gone up, this has gone down. That what's the point really of collecting these statistics?
Well, if you're asking me, there's two reasons for this. One, it's government accounting for the performance of a critical state institution like the police, and secondly, accounting for its own performance as the public representatives that direct and give guidance to the police.
Now, this begs the question.
So it allows an opportunity for us to judge both government and the police.
Sure. And then it begs the question then, what do these numbers tell us about our society as well as the policing capabilities in the country? And I'm going to ask the same question to Michael Sun in a moment, but let me start with you, Eldred de Klerk in Cape Town.
That's a very good question, because the numbers in and of itself says absolutely nothing. What we should be concerned about is that it reflects the level of discontent, the level of disaffection, the level of stress and risk our society is under. Because if you look at the statistic around attempted murder, which has gone up by, I believe, 4-point-something%, that for me is a good indication of the prevailing violence that our society experiences on a daily basis. And that should be a concern for all of us, including all levels of government.
Well, Michael, as I said, you know, I'd like to hear from your perspective, also having the campaigns that you are having here in Johannesburg, that what are these numbers, from your point of view, telling us about our society and the policing capabilities of the country?
Well, Tim, for us, in terms of, you know, a municipality, indeed is very important. You know, these are very useful guidance and tools for us to ensure that when we deploy our resources as, you know, the metro policing, we're not doing so blindly. In fact, you know, we need to do so where we've now conducted ourselves in a way that, you know, we have technology, you know, married with that, you know, increased police capacity. In fact, you know, we have, as of today, 1,074 JMPD officers on the road, you know, 273 vehicles. Those resources must be deployed properly, and we want to do so with technology and, of course, you know, based on good information. I think against this backdrop, any kind of stats or information or analysis that we can get our hands on will certainly assist us to ensure that when we do deploy resources, we're not doing so blindfolded. We're making sure those resources hit the target. And I think a second issue I'd like to, you know, bring into the discussion is that we really need to professionalize our policing service. Some of these crimes that's been mentioned on the crime stats are very specific, and unless you have professionalized police officers dealing with, for example, investigation of murder, investigation of syndicated car hijackings, business robberies, which we see so much in the city of Johannesburg, we are continuously going to see this conveyor belt of people loading things on, but only when you reach the corner, things fall off. And I think the other very important, you know, national function in this is the National Prosecuting Authority. Are we seeing any convictions or prosecutions coming out from those numbers? And I think that's something that we as a country, in fact, as a nation, should really be talking about.
And what about the, again, staying with you, Michael, for a moment, the intelligence gathering? I don't know if you have the capability as the city of Joburg to gather your own information and those types of preemptive investigations.
Well, in fact, it's quite contradictory. You know, one of the Metro Police functions that we have is crime prevention. But how do you prevent something from happening unless you have the intelligence? But then again, legislatively, you know, crime or intelligence gathering is the competency of national government. So we as a municipality, of course, we have our own channels and platforms where we gather as much information as we can, and we use those information. We're trying to deploy our resources and fight crime. We try to prevent, criminal activities from happening. So we certainly want to, take on that challenge, engage with our peers at national government.
Sure.
And say that we need to share that intelligence with the municipalities.
I'm coming to you, Eldred, in Cape Town. I mean, Michael here is talking about the specialized investigative units within the police force, that we do not have such capability. And the number two issue is that the intelligence gathering capability is not even there, but it resides with the national government. And therefore, at local level, there's not much that the Metro Police can do. What is your view about that?
Well, I want to agree in part with what Michael is saying. I agree that we need competent police and we need a slew of particular competencies. He's right in saying that commercial crime is one, personal contact crime, gender-based violence, we have crimes in cyber crimes. All these require police with specialized skills, certain technologies and certain insights. It's more than what an ordinary constable on the beat does. So I completely agree that when it comes to professional police, what we add to that is that these police have very specific competencies that allows them to combat certain types of crime. That's the one thing. I want to take on the issue of intelligence only insofar as saying that the local government in particular sits with a reservoir of information that actually should guide community safety planning. Every single municipality, as part of its integrated development plan, should be using that information to set in place a community safety plan. And remember, this is geared at prevention. This can be traffic, it can be environmental design issues, it can be looking at displacement. It definitely involves issues of compliance, licensing, permits, and regulation. And that is all competencies of local government that feeds into the matrix of policing as a whole and enforcement in particular. Intelligence, by its very definition, is covert, and that is governed by a particular set of norms, values, and procedures. And rightfully so, it's the competency of national government.
I want to stay with you there in Cape Town, Eldred, because Cape Town seems to be having an inordinate number in ratio terms of murders being committed there, right? And attempted murder rates are very high in Cape Town, particularly on the Cape Flats. It's one pattern that emerges immediately when you take a look at this report that was published this week. So why do you think that is the case? And people visit Cape Town, they live in the city, they do not see nor experience any crime, and it appears Cape Town is the safest city in the country, yet it is, for lack of a word, the deadliest city in South Africa.
It's what we learn from a lot of other cities around the world, be it in Guatemala, Brazil, Cambodia, Manila, and elsewhere, is that there are many cities within the city of Cape Town. How the Cape Flats is governed and what kind of expenditure and what kind of governance operate there is very different to what happens in the middle of the city where I stay. And you're absolutely right that a lot of these areas, if you look particularly at why it's happening, they are suffering decades of neglect, under-expenditure, and definitely underdevelopment. And all that provides a criminogenic environment of people where they feel neglected, they feel uncared for, and they do not feel and cannot enjoy the richness of a city like the city of Cape Town.
Well, gentlemen, let's end the show on an optimistic note. Is there anything that's going on in the country in terms of policing and the policies or the approaches to dealing with crime? Very briefly, Michael, what is it that we should be optimistic about?
Well, Tom, I can tell you that certainly towards the end of this year, in fact, November, December, we're going to see 1,500 new JMPD officers join the streets of Johannesburg, servicing the residents of Joburg. We are using technology. We have set up, specialized units within JMPD. We are purchasing, new fire engines and ambulances. So we as a municipality, we're certainly not going to sit back and say, well, there's another year of stats and let us leave it at that. We'll be using this information to ensure that we better serve and protect our city.
And Eldred, what are you hearing from the authorities, provincial or national, that's giving you some optimism? Very briefly, please.
Well, I'm optimistic around the fact that we finally acknowledge that this is an all-of-government challenge. I'm optimistic and I'm heartened by the fact that different tiers of government are starting to share information and that they were using evidence-based and intelligence-based planning tools and interventions that hopefully will yield fruit in the not-too-distant future.
Eldred de Klerk is in Cape Town. Thank you very much for talking to us from there. Michael Sun here in Joburg with me. And thank you, Michael. After the break, we'll be turning our focus to the rise of false or disinformation that's going viral online, inciting fear and mistrust in the public sphere. We're advising you, be careful with that. And join us for that conversation. We'd also like to hear your views on social media platforms. #the Modise Network.